Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here along with Brad.
What's up, y'all?
And of course, we're here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And guys, I know we've been away for a while. I've been trying to tinker with some new ideas, trying to figure out how to make this channel a little bit better, a little more story-driven narratives going here on the channel. But of course, we still love to do the podcast, and we have to talk about the Kevin Durant injury that happened last night. If you guys don't know, or you've been living under a rock, Kevin Durant in Game 5 of the NBA Finals only played 12 minutes. And according to multiple sources by Woj, Ramona Shelburne, Brian Windhorst, many ESPN and non-ESPN people have said that it's probably more than likely a right Achilles tear for Kevin Durant. And the biggest question that everyone wants to talk about, not the fact that the fans were cheering as he was getting hurt, but the biggest question is going to be, who do we blame for the injury? Because there always has to be some sort of blame for anything. So Brad, I want to ask you, what do you think is the biggest blame for Kevin Durant's injury this time around?
I blame the Warriors medical staff.
You blame the Warriors medical staff?
100%.
Is there like if we do like a pie or whatever, is there anything like that?
Yeah. So I would say I'd give 60% to the Warriors medical staff.
Okay.
I'd give 20% to the GM.
Okay.
20% to his teammates, and 20% to fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
KD gets no blame?
He's a basketball player. He wants to play, you know? Like, do you think he would have sat out if they told him, listen, it's your choice. You can sit out or you can play?
I think he would have sat out. I think that...
Really? You think so?
I think he would have sat out if he was given the choice. But, of course, you know, I will say with the peer pressure of not only his teammates, but the media, the fans, everything around him. Of course, the competitor in him, and that's just kind of I think Jalen Rose brought it up perfectly on First Take this morning. That's just the culture of sports. Like, you want to be out there with your teammates, giving it all. I mean, that's the reason why we have those signature moments in the NBA. Of course, you know, you have the NBA flu game with Michael Jordan. You had Isaiah Thomas playing on a broken foot. I mean, there's just all these type of sports, and when you remember those moments, it's because of the injury and the impact that they brought to the team. So, you know, if Durant was able to bring them back from a, 3-1 deficit.
Well, that's why he would want to play.
Yeah.
Because that puts you into some crazy conversation, you know? Like, if you envision that, like, okay, I have a chance to bring this team back from 3-1, and you're a basketball player, there's no way you're sitting out.
Right.
There's no way. So I really put the blame on the organization. It was their job to tell him you need to sit out. And the staff, too, they shouldn't have cleared him at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the crazy part about it is that, he hasn't played or worked out in a month. And then all of a sudden, according to Jalen Rose, he had a bad workout the last week. And, it was unlikely that he was going to come back. And then all of a sudden they cleared him. That to me is the biggest kind of scumminess, or not even scumminess, but more of a question mark than anything. Because when we look at the injury and look at everything that happened, Kevin Durant should not have been cleared at all by the medical staff, by anybody. I think Kevin Durant, in my opinion, should have gotten a second opinion on it.
Easily, yeah. It was their job to tell him not to play. They did the same thing with Clay. Clay wanted to play, but they told him, no, your hammy's not right. You need to sit out. And he was mad about it, but it's good for his health, And now KD has a torn Achilles, and he has to sit out a year, maybe more, and they should have just told him no.
So I think the biggest question now is, do you think that calf strain that was back when they were playing the Houston Rockets, do you think it was more than just a calf strain? Because when I watched it, in my opinion, I think that it was bigger than that. I think it was something in the Achilles at that point.
I thought it was an Achilles injury right away, too. It looked similar to like when Kobe tore his Achilles,
Yeah.
Like he all of a sudden, snap, and he grabbed at it, too. So it looked like an Achilles injury, and the whole world knew it. How did Twitter know that it was an Achilles injury before the Warriors knew,
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a multitude of reasons as to why that happened. I think, in my opinion, I think the Warriors staff, the medical, everybody on that team was trying to cover for him. Because I think a calf strain to the fans, or like, the people that don't really do the research, or people that are kind of just casually looking at this stuff, they're not going to question and be like, oh, it's a calf strain. He'll probably be back in a couple weeks. Instead of, if you say it's an Achilles injury, then it's a little more serious.
Exactly. That's what I think. They kind of left the window open for him to come back in case they needed him, which is exactly what happened last night.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that that's what had to happen. Of course, we have an article here talking about, who people blamed, and this is what the article goes on to say. This is the 5 things that they blamed. Of course, they blamed the Warriors medical staff. That's number 1 for them. The Warriors management was the second one. The next was the press and Draymond Green. Well, that's just
That's who I had when I said the team.
Yeah.
Really, Draymond. I know he was in there barking at him. Like, man, we need you. Come on.
I mean, he's the reason why he cried and called Kevin Durant that night.
Oh my gosh.
But then they also had the narrative of sports fans, what sports fans bring. They also had Durant and his personal representatives. And then, of course, they had nobody because, it's a freak accident at some point.
It is a freak accident, but, like, it could have been prevented. And what's even worse for the organization is they were willing to have him play the next 2 games, too. Like, say they win that game and he goes perfectly healthy and he's fine. Mm-hmm. They were willing to let him play the next game knowing he's not right.
Yeah.
That's wrong. That is so wrong.
Yeah, and it just kind of leads to a lot of people, and I think that Kawhi Leonard opened the eyes of many, and I think that we're going to start seeing this from a lot of NBA players until they decide to shorten the NBA season itself, is that we're going to see players kind of do the rest approach, where they're going to take at least, 16 to 22 games off because they don't want to play so many games and put so much wear and tear on their body, especially for players that are going to go into the NBA playoffs, so that are going to go for that deep run like the Warriors, like the Rockets, like those teams, for example. They're not going to want to put those players in a position where they could get hurt the most, especially guys like Chris Paul, who we know has an injury history. Kawhi Leonard, who, didn't feel right with the quad injury and tendinosis or whatever the medical term
Blake
that they use. Blake Griffin.
That was horrible watching the Bucks just run all over the Pistons in the playoffs because he was out, If if the season shortened, maybe he never gets injured like that and his team can actually compete in the playoffs. So, they got to shorten the season.
I mean, there's a lot of things to blame. But let's go through this list really quick and then let's talk about it. So the first, of course, is the Warriors medical staff. I mean, we kind of talked about this, but I think there was an interesting point here by Rachel Nichols saying that Steve Kerr said that the doctors told him that Durant couldn't get more hurt from this injury, which to me is just like,
yeah, what? They had the risk. They ran the risk of aggravating his injury,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. It's even saying you can't get more hurt, he's still not 100%. So
yeah, to me, when you say that you can't get more, I mean, that's the reason why. Even if it was a calf strain, let's say, the calf muscle, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not trying to pretend to be one, but I think anybody that could look at a human anatomy or just even look at your own calf can see that the Achilles and the calf are connected. So the fact that even if you had a calf strain, that an Achilles injury or something similar to that can be something that could happen. It's not one of those things where it's like, it's the left arm and the right leg. Like, no, they're connected in one part of the body. So to me, thinking that, like, even to a person that doesn't know anything about, anatomy, concede that injury is more likely to happen.
And you know what? I really think that the Warriors were working to make it seem like he was healthy, Like that video of everybody saw of him dancing in the hallway.
Yeah.
Dancing is not the same as playing an NBA basketball game, especially an NBA Finals game. And then I saw a video of him catching an alley-oop, in warm-ups, and it's like, Kevin Durant is 7 feet tall with a freakish wingspan. A bunch of you guys could catch a lob like that on a Nerf hoop with a calf strain. So it doesn't mean anything, He was clearly not 100%, and it sucks that he's injured.
I know. And then another thing that I saw too was this article talking about a team doctor from another franchise. It says team officials maintained that the Achilles injury was not necessarily caused by the calf strain that kept Kevin Durant sidelined. It's a different injury, Meyer said, but it's fair to conclude that the calf injury left Durant more vulnerable, according to team doctors of other franchises. I mean, like we said, like, it's obvious that that's what's gonna happen. It's not one of those things where it's like, well, maybe it could happen, maybe it can't happen. I mean, especially with a Kevin Durant injury like that. I mean, obviously, Kevin Durant doesn't have an uncle telling him not to play like Kawhi Leonard did. But at the same time, I think that Kevin Durant's people that are around him, like his agent or other people that are associated with Kevin Durant, should have just told him, you know what, forget playing, just rest up and let's wait for next time.
I'm sure the people close to him probably told him, like, Kevin, listen, are you 100%? Like, are you sure? But at the end of the day, it's his decision, and he's gonna say yes.
I mean, that's the thing. It just kind of sucks. And then, of course, the next people that they blame is the Warriors management. And I'm just gonna put Warriors management and also players as well in this, because I think there was a report saying that the players were a little distraught. They were a little confused as to why Kevin Durant wasn't playing. It's been over a month from a calf strain injury. A lot of people were saying, you know what, KD, you got to come back. You got to come back and help us win this game. I mean, at some point, I think the players such as Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, those guys have to take responsibility for what happened as well, because it was kind of like, are you with us or not?
Exactly, 100%. And, you know, there's so many things that went on after KD got injured. After he got injured, I don't know if you can tell, but Curry looked just like deflated. The team looked deflated, you know? It was almost like, crap, KD's out. How are we going to win, you know? And then after the game, I know they pressured him and that they feel bad about it, because Klay, you know, of course he feels really bad about it, but, you know, they were really just trying to speak really well on his name, you know, like, he's a warrior for fighting, we appreciate him coming back, like, you know, and trying to help us win, but that's just damage control, you know? You guys are the ones that told him he should come back. It was really making it look like they want him to stay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm actually thinking about it, because, I mean, that's an extra $90 million that you're not going to get from another team.
I think he still leaves.
You think so? Like, we'll talk about this later, because there is a question I want to ask about that. But let's move on to another player, and that's, of course, Draymond Green. We know what Draymond Green said earlier in the season. We won without you, called him the B word. There's a lot of stuff between Kevin Durant and Draymond Green that has really manifested, and it's kind of the reason why at the beginning we all thought, yeah, Kevin Durant's leaving for sure. I mean, how much do we blame Draymond Green for this?
I mean, we don't really know what went on behind the closed doors, but
yeah,
come on, like,
I know
it's Draymond. The way he was saying something to KD, so. I put more blame on Draymond than I would another teammate.
Yeah.
I'd say that. Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the thing with Draymond Green. You know, he wears his emotions on his sleeves. He's gonna say what he feels. He's gonna say what he wants to say. And at some points, you know, it's good to hear, but also sometimes it's bad to hear, especially with this stuff. You know, with a guy like Kevin Durant, who's, you know, there's some people are more sensitive than others. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just the way people are.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fact that, you know, Draymond Green didn't read the room or read the situation kind of goes to show you that because of what happened and what he did, you know, it led to Kevin Durant thinking in his head, you know what, I probably should play, because, you know, if they win a championship without me, the narrative's going to be,
you know, crazy and run with this crazy narrative. Exactly. They never needed KD. Draymond was right.
Yeah. It's just,
trying to take craps on his legacy because of it. Like, no.
And then the next, of course, is the narrative of the sports fans. You know, the sports fans creating the narratives. The press, I would say, also is in this. Do you think that the press and the fans deserve any blame?
For sure. They're the ones creating the narrative, and they all know it bugs Kevin. You know, they all know, and they're doing it, I don't know if on purpose, but they're just doing it because they're the media. Stir up some, you know, story, you know, and it gets to Kevin. So I would say it had a factor in him playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing with Kevin Durant. We know that he's responded to people on Twitter, not even just, you know, people that have blue check marks or people that are well known in the NBA community. He just kind of does it to people that don't really matter. And it's not saying that it's a bad thing, but at the same time, you know, you wish that Kevin Durant would kind of not like take the high road, but at least, you know, kind of send out a general statement of how he felt and try to figure out what he can say to kind of get the fans off his back. But obviously that's not the case, since Kevin Durant went from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Golden State Warriors. That created a lot of animosity. People kind of put asterisks next to the rings that he's won in Golden State.
I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But still, he's a human being, and, you know, I can see why he responds. Like, you know, some athletes don't respond. Okay, cool. But Kevin is it's actually cool that he responds, you know? Like, how many people can say they've talked to Kevin Durant on Twitter, even if they were bad-mouthing him and he had to respond?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing, too. Like, that's what I'm going to want to see in the future, especially as Kevin Durant moves on to his next part of his career after this NBA season, is where does he go? How's he going to respond? What's it going to be like? And then, of course, the next sort of situation that this article tries to bring up is that Kevin Durant and his personal representatives are also to blame as well. Because to be fair, you know, to play devil's advocate, Kevin Durant also could have said no. He could have said, you know what, I don't feel comfortable playing. He could have pulled a Kawhi Leonard with the San Antonio Spurs. He could have said, my foot's not right. I don't want to put any more pressure on it. I don't want to force it to where I might have to miss a year of playing.
Exactly. Yeah. In hindsight, for sure, he could have said, no, I'm not playing. And I guess he was just thinking about the legacy, winning a ring. I wish he would have thought of his future.
But I mean, that's kind of hard to think about your future, especially when you talk about when you build a franchise, right?
I mean, Kawhi did it.
Yeah,
Look at where he is now.
I mean, true. He's one game away from winning the NBA Finals. Or unless they blow it, who knows? Mm-hmm. But I just think that also Kevin Durant is a guy that, because Kawhi doesn't really care about the media. He doesn't care about the fan response or the Twitter thing. I mean, he was the guy that was still driving his Tahoe or whatever car that he was driving.
No social media.
Yeah.
He might not even see a lot. Like, all the memes, Twitter was flooded with Kawhi memes the other day. Like, it was gold, but he probably didn't even see a single one.
No, probably not, because he's too busy focused on basketball. Exactly. Like, even when they asked him, what would it mean for the city of Canada to win a championship? He said, go ask some random dude on the street.
Exactly, yeah.
Because he's more focused on basketball, more focused on everything else besides social media, which, is kind of a cool thing, but it's also one of those things where you never know. It would be nice to get to know more of Kawhi, because I think that's what his uncle was trying to do when they were moving from San Antonio and trying to move to LA, is trying to create that brand for him, trying to make him more personable, get him that marketing deal. Mm-hmm. And I think the way that you do that sometimes is by social media. So I would, it'd be interesting to see if he does move to LA, what happens to Kawhi. Does he change? Does his personality change, or does he stay the same?
I think he would stay the same. Because it's just who he is. He's just super focused on basketball. But I do think he would have more of a brand, be more marketable. And you see, like, he's suing Nike over them copywriting his logo.
Yeah.
So he's thought about it.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's just the thing. And then, of course, the last thing that this article goes on to say is the blame for Kevin Durant is nobody. Because this was, to be fair, it was a freak accident, but at the same time, it could have been preventable.
It's completely preventable. I don't agree with that nobody.
Yeah.
Like, it's a freak accident for sure, but it was literally just tell him you're not ready to go.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when you watch the game, he played 12 minutes. Of course, there was no minutes restriction according to Kerr, even though I think there should have been at some point, played.
That's what I was wondering. I thought for sure they were like, okay, he's playing, but minutes restriction of like max 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Didn't hear anything about that. I was stunned.
Yeah, it's just like, that's the frustrating thing about it, is just that we know that Kevin Durant is a guy that hasn't played in a month. We talked about this at the beginning of this video. Hasn't played over in a month, had a failed workout. Practice is not the same as a game. And you're expecting Kevin Durant to just go this, because I mean, he played 40 something minutes every time he was out there. Yeah. So, with all that stress, with all that wear and tear, I mean, it's the reason why I talked about, players like LeBron James, and I would say maybe Will Chamberlain had this a little bit in his younger days, but it's one of those players that doesn't get hurt often. Like, that is a rarity. Like, those guys are a rarity in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Iron Man, Klay Thompson, Westbrook, until his knee injury at least. He was an Iron Man until his knee injury. But if I'm KD, really, honestly, he should have just sat back and looked at it and said, what's going to happen if I play? Like, let's say we win this game. Then we go to the next game, Is my calf okay? Do I feel right?
Right.
No, obviously not. So he had to have known an injury was possible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too, because when you watch the gameplay from him in those 12 minutes...
He knows he's not right.
He's not right. He's shooting three-pointers. He's not really attacking the basket until he decided to do that and then got injured. So that Kevin Durant, in his mind, and that the game plan for the Warriors was like, okay, Kevin Durant, we know that you're still hurt. How about you don't drive, but you can shoot?
Pick your spots and shoot. Exactly. Play some defense. I don't know how he got that block on Siakam on that leg.
Yeah, that should have been like I'm surprised he didn't tear it as soon as he jumped.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my God.
I mean, there's just a lot of things that we can blame in this whole situation, but I think ultimately it comes down to, for me, in my opinion, we'll talk about your opinion as well, but it comes to me as it's the Warriors management for not realizing and understanding the situation, especially the doctors. I'm not sure if it was the doctors or the pressure from the owner or whoever it was to say, hey, let's clear him, because we know we've seen this before in many sports, right? Especially when it comes to things like football with concussions, We know that doctors, owners, and coaches are going to be like, is he good to play? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, saying...
I can totally agree with that. I think the owners definitely had a part in it. Like, the owner and GM, like, is he good? Is he good? Like, can he run at least? Clear him, you know?
I mean, you brought up an interesting point when we were talking off camera. What did you think of the Bob Myers sort of interview that he had talking to the press?
It seemed like damage control. You know, it seemed, obviously, I know he feels bad, for sure. You can't fake feeling bad.
Yeah.
But it's damage control. You knew this was a possibility going into it. You knew he wasn't ready, but as soon as you went down 3-1, you're like, we need you, get out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I saw with the Bob Myers interview was just like, dude, you don't feel bad that you feel bad that he got hurt, but at the same time, you're like, wow, I wish I didn't push him so hard, or wish I didn't create this sort of situation. And we're gonna, it's gonna be interesting to see if Kevin Durant himself talks about it in an interview or something like that, as he's recovering from his injury, talking about, why did you decide to play?
I think he's gonna give you the exact response that we all think. Like, his team needed him. They're down 3-1. He had a chance to make history. That's probably what he's gonna give us. And I don't think he's gonna badmouth the Warriors at all, because he's pretty loyal to their organization, even though they treat him pretty horribly.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. I think he's probably going to say he's going to say the right things. He's not going to be controversial or say anything outlandish. But I would like to know, be a fly in the wall, or just understand the situation and like, ask, like, why did you ask him to play? If you knew that Kevin Durant, when you watched his workouts, when you watched him practice, because, practice could be, we saw this with Kawhi. Remember, he was practicing with the coaches. He was practicing, practice with the coaches is like nothing, really, because, you're going against guys that aren't even NBA athletes. And the fact that Kawhi Leonard just, kind of set the mold and set the standard for, if you have this injury, you should sit out. I would love to know, like, Kevin Durant, when he's doing these workouts and when he's attacking people, especially the coaching staff, like, is he 100% right, or is he just kind of going through the motion at this point?
I think he was kind of just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Especially during the game, like you said, he was just, moving, shooting, picking his spots. I think what happened is he forgot. You know, like, their plan was, listen, Kevin, be careful, move here, shoot, do this. We won't try and push you too much. We'll take you out if you say you want to come out. But he forgot. He was hooping.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you have a play style that you're so accustomed to, this is kind of what happened with Derrick Rose when he came back from his injury, and why it took him a very long time until he did, worked on his jumper. It's like, you remember what got you here to this point. You don't, it's like,
so ingrained in your body, you just do it.
Yeah.
I don't think he was thinking, I'm going to drive on Serge and take him. Like, he just did it. Yeah. Because he's so used to doing it.
It's one of those things where you're so used to doing it, you're so used to how you used to play. It's like, why would I change the way I play? But this is just going to be an interesting thing. So I guess the last question before we decide to sign off is, who do you blame ultimately for it?
Ultimately, I blame the medical staff. It's their job to say he can't play.
That's true. I would also say the medical staff as well, but I think I'm going to go with more of the players on this one, because, peer pressure is a hell of a drug. We know that.
It is.
We've seen it in high school. We've all experienced it in life, getting peer pressured by someone or something. And I just think that because of the peer pressure of not only the players, but the fans, the media, everybody involved, I think that's ultimately who I'm going to blame. But we want to ask you guys in the comment section, who do you guys blame for the Kevin Durant injury? Is it, of course, Kevin Durant himself? Is it the owner? Is it the medical staff? Or is it the players themselves? I'd love to know your guys' comments in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, this has been your boy Burton here, along with Brad, here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And guys, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Also remember to hit that notification bell so you don't miss our NBA content, where we talk about players such as Zion Williamson and John Moran and how they're going to fit in the NBA. And also we have videos talking about the NBA playoffs, at least some of them. Remember, guys, we're still in construction in this podcast. We're still trying to figure out how to make sure that this content is the best that it can be. But anyway, guys, we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.